is that one can be used for commerce on the highway and requires registration. The other does not require registration, but cannot be used for commerce on the highway. It's a very simple concept, and that's probably why some people have such difficulty seeing it for what it is. If an act says an apple is a round red fruit, that does not mean all round red fruit are apples. If an act says a motor vehicle is a vehicle that has these attributes, it doesn't mean a vehicle that has those attributes are all motor vehicles. And if that's difficult for you to understand, I would suggest some remedial learning and maybe do some logic. And I know I'm being a little condescending, but that's for my Facebook trolls and internet friends who are out to get me. So here it is. Motor vehicle means a vehicle propelled by any power other than muscular power or a moped, but it doesn't include a bike or a bunch of other things. Motor vehicle documents, as we are going to see defined in that same act, refer only to documents for motor vehicles. Motor vehicle document means, and then they've got a list. But you can't get any of these for a private passenger vehicle. Nope, these are restricted to motor vehicles. And here we see the definition of private passenger vehicle, used solely for personal transportation, not commerce, and it doesn't require permit, license, registration, or insurance. Why? Because this is a common law country and it's our property.
So tell us again what happened when you were pulled over by police in February.
February the 17th, 2010, I was pulled over by the Calgary Police Service for not having any plates on my car. I was actually exercising my travel rights, which I had done so since the 1st of February. So 17 days, basically. I had no registration, no insurance, traveled with no driver's license, and had no plates on my automobile. I considered it private property, and that pretty much sums that up.
Why are you doing all this?
My purpose was one of my main goals with regards to once I established my claim of right, was to get rid of the last piece of government identification that I have. I'm finding it very restrictive, and that our travel rights are not really being allowed to us. They want ID to travel on an airplane, to travel on a train, to travel on a bus, to use your automobile, and quite frankly, I'd like to be done with government identification.
Okay. What is your understanding, as per the Traffic Safety Act, of a motor vehicle?
Well, a motor vehicle requires motor vehicle documents. There's a number of different vehicles mentioned in the Traffic Safety Act. Firstly, they mention just vehicles. Then they mention motor vehicles. Then they mention insured vehicles. Then they mention registered vehicles. And then they mention commercial vehicles. And so each one of those for a motor vehicle requires 4 sets of documents, or motor vehicle documents, which are insurance or a financial responsibility card, registration documents, your driver's license, and a license plate. That's a motor vehicle.
Okay, so when you were pulled over, did you consider yourself to be, your means of conveyance to be in a car, or automobile, or a motor vehicle? I
considered my automobile to be private property, and mentioned that to the police officer when they pulled me over, that this is private property. I am traveling in a common law jurisdiction by way of claim of right. So I considered it to be private property or a private passenger vehicle. And there's a funny thing about that, in that the only place that the word private passenger vehicle is mentioned is under the definition of a commercial vehicle in the definitions of the Motor Vehicle or Traffic Safety Act. And it mentions that a commercial vehicle is a vehicle that operates on the highway by or on behalf of a person for the purposes of transportation, but does not include a private passenger vehicle, private property vehicle. That's what I was in.
Can you elaborate maybe a little bit more on the private passenger vehicle?
Well, unfortunately, that was the only spot throughout the whole Traffic Safety Act that the words private passenger vehicle were mentioned. As a result thereof, I previously contacted insurance companies with regards to providing insurance on a private property or a private vehicle, and they do not have such a plan. So in Alberta, I don't know about other provinces, the only way that you can get registration or a plate is by way of having insurance. And if the insurance industry will not even provide that for a private passenger vehicle, there is no opportunity to comply under any regulation, which the government has no regulations for private passenger vehicles in the Traffic Safety Act of Alberta.
Here we are on Cortez with John, Kareen, and me, of course, your not so humble cult leader. Yeah, I'm gonna craft a notice of I told you so. Let's keep it going for Francisco for setting us up, bringing me out here. You don't mind if I grab a little seat while we have our little chat, do you? How y'all doing? This was advertised as a comedy show. It's more of a comedic perspective on the law. I used to do stand-up comedy until the government subjected me to what I felt was a betrayal and an unjust situation, caused me to start investigating. I'd also like to thank you guys for inviting me to your wonderful island here, Cortez. It's a wonderful place. I was very, very impressed. Although some of your women scared me with the intensity when you're having a potluck with them. They got some powerful bullshit detectors, don't they? And I met this one girl. She told me she was a vegetarian. She was pretty cute. I said, "So you're vegetarian? Will you go oats with me?" Oats out? I thought it was pretty good, but she was quick. She said, "But I barely know you." I said, "Well, wait a minute. So what? Let us remain here and chat, please." She said, "Well, okra, if you insist, I guess it's the least I can do. Shall I continue, or should I move onions to other things?" So I'm asking her out. She says, "Well, Rob, do you even drive? Do you have a car, though?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Is it big?" I said, "No." She said, "Oh, not mushroom." I said, "No, but at least them tires spin, bitch." So she agreed to go out with me. I thought that was great. I'm waiting for her in this little basement restaurant. It was dark and damp. It was kind of weird. It was like a cellar read. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for her. Finally, she turnips. Boy, did she look radishing. Beautiful face, little mini skirt. I'm thinking, boy, you're cute up here. I wonder if you're a cucumber there, too. I mean, what a tomato. She looked so good right then, right there. I asked her to marry me. I said, "Come on, let's run off to Vegas, get married. We don't have to tell anyone." She said, "Rob, I can't elope." Well, that made my artichoke because all my hops were squashes. But a little while later, we were outside smoking a little bit of potato. And she says to me, you know, Rob, I think I'd rather make it with a panhandler than with my cousin. I said, what? You'd rather rutabaga than pumpkin?